Welcome to the Leader's Mindset, where we bring you illuminating conversations with leaders who are making an impact in business and their communities. You may notice it looks a little bit different today behind us. We're not in the set we're used to. That's because we're at the downtown Las Vegas Tech Alley meetup event, getting to know the entrepreneurs, the investors, and other enthusiasts in our Las Vegas tech ecosystem. And in honor of the 3rd anniversary of Tech Alley, our guest today is Josh Leavitt, the driving force behind Tech Alley. Welcome to the show, Josh. Thanks for being with us today. So tell us what Tech Alley is and why you started it 3 years ago.
Now, I'm excited to be here. And let's talk about Tech Alley. Tech Alley is a great event. So the idea behind Tech Alley is just to make it easy to share knowledge. So we secure venue spaces throughout the art district here. And we invite meetup hosts and people that want to share knowledge to use those spaces so that the community has one place to go to engage the tech and startup scene here. We follow 3 principles. One, it's inclusive, meaning anybody can participate and attend. It doesn't matter your age, doesn't matter your skill level. It's open to all people. Then it's accessible, which means it's free. So no one pays anything. The meetup hosts don't pay to get the venue spaces. It doesn't pay to come here. It doesn't pay to eat. It's an entire event that just makes it very simple for people to participate. And then it's consistent. So here it's held every 3rd Saturday of the month. Same place, same location, same times.
Yeah, and I think those 3 principles are what has made Tech Alley a success going for month after month for 3 years in a row now. You haven't missed a month in 3 years. And I've been involved in the tech ecosystem, the startup scene for almost 10 years in Las Vegas. And I've watched attempts at this kind of thing come and go. Mm-hmm. And the consistency really is the part that challenges a lot of people, but you've made that happen. And before we go too much further, I want to thank our host today at Taverna Costera, because they're the ones who are providing lunch for the Tech Alley meetup. Yeah. They provide us with a networking space for the networking in the morning and lunch, and they're providing us with some space on their roof deck so we can have this great view for you all for our podcast today. So thank you to Taverna Costera. Yeah. Thank you, Josh, for putting together Tech Alley and doing such great things. Now, as you were starting Tech Alley, did you feel like there was something missing in the tech ecosystem here?
Oh yeah, big time. So just to give you like the long, deep history, right? So I was running a coding school here, just right across the way, right off of Charleston. And one of the things that I would do was I would host meetups. And the idea behind it was I wanted meetups to come into our campus. So we were going to be good community advocates and so on. But 2, there was a great marketing plan because it brought people that could potentially want to join our cohorts into the campus. And 3rd, our students were able to interact with a lot of the folks here. So I got to know the meetup scene pretty good. And one day, a guy from Irvine came to my campus and he goes, "Hey, I heard this was the tech scene." I said, "Sure is, man. There's a meetup on Monday and there's like a JavaScript meetup on Thursday." And he goes, No, I'm looking for that one place, that one area where it's like a flea market of ideas. And I said, we don't have that in Vegas, but that's what's planted the seed. That's what planted the seed in my brain about it. So once I left that job and Tech Alley became this concept of, hey, we really want to put this together. It was during COVID, so nothing was going on.
Right.
And so I put together a advisory council, and we were talking through ideas online and going, all right, one of these days we'll get this going. What's going to happen? And then the governor released a mask mandate. And we're like, oh, maybe there's this opportunity. And then at the same point, the city was hosting this event where they're trying to bring people into Las Vegas to live here. And I said, if I can get Tech Alley, this concept of Tech Alley, together within 3 weeks that you had your event, could you guys make this a tour as part of your tour? And I said, if you can do it, sure. So 3 weeks, we had it together. That's why it's in May at that time. And you're right. We had 2 locations and 2 meetups. And I was meeting with Taverna Costera, and you get to their credit, they said, of course, we'll support you guys. And they've been doing it ever since. And that was only after our first meetup, which was like 40 people that attended. Now we have 200 people that attend.
Yeah, it's
and they
amazing.
Still do the same thing for us, at every time. But that was what I was talking to the city about. Was I saying, you guys are doing a pretty good job of bringing people to Las Vegas, but how are you going to keep them here? We got to show that there's a community here in order for them to stay. Now, of course, the thought behind it too was I wanted those people that were coming from out of state and so on, and all the people that had this knowledge to really introduce that knowledge to the locals here as well, because I wanted to see a lot more local startups flourishing, and that's really what's been going on. People are finding ways to bring ideas to market simply because all the bright components are are here.
Yeah, I got involved in the tech community here because I was working on my MBA at UNLV, and I was part of what's called Rebel Venture Fund, which is an a student-led angel investing fund. So we were looking for where are all the Las Vegas startups. We were supposed to invest in Las Vegas startups, and there weren't a lot. And we started looking further afield, and we started becoming part of the conversation of how do you bring companies here? How do you bring startups to Las Vegas? And we found the same thing. They would say, it's great to visit, but you guys don't have a lot of reasons for us to stay. Yeah. And now that was 2015. A lot has changed since then, and a lot of folks have started to, and I think Tech Alley has helped a lot of folks start to understand that because they're hearing the conversation too of what are the reasons we have for people to stay? What are the reasons we have for people to move their startups here? And we've seen a couple move here in just the last couple of months. There are a lot of the organizations that are responsible for that are now making a really hard push to set up the ecosystem so that there is something. And there is that. Tech Alley is kind of becoming that one place. That's what I've heard from folks from the Bay Area. I've never lived there or worked there, but the Bay Area folks always say, Vegas didn't quite just have that one place where everybody goes, and Tech Alley's starting to fill that role.
Yeah, and I saw that because we talk about that Brett Phelps book, sort of communities. And they talk about the components that you need. Activity was one of them, and I'll say this. I don't know if you know Jean-Claude, who's the founder of Be Right Back. He was one of the first entrepreneurs that I was talking to when we were coming up with this concept, and he said, I came to Vegas, and he goes, and I couldn't find no resources. I couldn't find anything that was happening here when it came to the startup side. And he goes, it's kind of like this. I want to play soccer, and I feel like I got to build the entire stadium when all I want to do is bring my ball. Yeah. And I said, that's a great driving sort of thought process here.
It's a great analogy.
If we can create an environment where, we're at a restaurant or at a cafe and someone goes, hey, I got this really cool idea. And it goes like, and you start writing it down on a napkin, and the person next to him goes, I like this idea. Hey, let me get you integrated in my network, and we can really help you sort of move this along. I said, that's how we know we've won. Because you're right, 2020, 21, there was nothing really going on the startup scene. I talked to the city, I talked to like LVGEA and so on, and they said, hey, we support it, but we're putting our efforts into other things. And my goal was, get the city hyper engaged in this, and number two, get LVGA to put budget toward the startup community, and you're seeing a lot of that, and
we've seen that happen, and we're really seeing the needle move on our ecosystem and the support for it, largely due to Tech Alley.
And I say that I try to stay in my lane, but I say again, read the book. Entrepreneurs are the leaders, organizations are the supporters, and I said, Tech Alley is a supporter of this thing. I'm not a leader. I'm more of an instigator of it, and my role can be just to be the accelerator of activity. And that's what we did. We created sharing knowledge simple here, and then we would promote. We say, go out there and continue doing this. How can I help? I'll promote your event. I mean, I had no cares if I wasn't just basically promoting Tech Alley. I was promoting everybody because I thought if we can make it appear that Vegas is just on fire when it comes to activity, then it's really going to get a lot of folks' attention, right? Because we might know there's activity, but if people outside of Vegas doesn't know, then we're not doing our jobs. And I think we became that accelerator of activity here locally.
I certainly think you have.
Yeah,
and it's been great. It's been amazing, and I'm proud to be part of what goes on here at Tech Alley at 2 every month.
Yeah.
So give us a little bit about your background. Born and raised in Las Vegas, kind of rare. You're a multiple-time tech founder yourself.
Yeah.
How did we get to where we are today and helping build the tech community in Las Vegas?
I love those, that whole timeline. And you're right. I grew up here in Vegas, and I tell people I knew 3 jobs growing up: construction, the resorts, and cop. That was it. And I lived in a construction neighborhood. So
I was stationed here in the Air Force 20 years ago. So, and even back then, that like the local folks we knew, that those were the jobs available, or that's what people felt the jobs were available to.
Yeah. And I lived in a construction neighborhood, right? So whenever I needed money growing up, it was I better go to where they're building apartments or something. Say, hey, is there any holes I can dig or sheetrock I can carry? Something. And sure, you got little jobs here, and in there. So I really had no idea of what I wanted to do when I got older. I tried college, that didn't work out for me. So. Long story short, I eventually got into technology just by chance. Found that as a pretty exciting occupation, and within 5 years, I ended up becoming a CIO of a helicopter company here, and I did that for 15 years. And like most people, I think here is I couldn't find any technology talent, And I see technology as an accelerator of business. And I would tell the leadership of our company is we're competing against, and I know they knew this, but I said we're competing against all of these other resorts and everything, even outside of our industry, for the tourist money. If we can't have the technology folks to help us compete against millions of dollars in budgets, we might be in trouble, right? And so I got highly invested in workforce development, visiting high schools, mentorship, hosting internships. Got so involved that I eventually quit that job and started working for a nonprofit that did training, for free training.
Mm-hmm.
That's when we started the coding school that was right over here. 2020 hit, and I thought disruption creates opportunity. And I quit that and became an entrepreneur and started 3 companies shortly after. Each one, believe it or not, is basically looking at some issue that happened. It was going on here in locally and saying, well, we could fix this, and let's put something together. But I tell you this, do you know what did it? Because I came from this corporate experience, right? Low risk. Let's just make sure that things are running and so on. To start integrating myself, especially at that coding school, with entrepreneurs, high growth entrepreneurs, people that had ideas and just sort of saw something different. Oh, that's me. Sorry. That's what.
Shout out to Magnum PI.
Yeah, I know, the old school, but that's. That's what kicks things off. Going, all right, well, let's really look at these situations and how could we solve this and make some money at the same point. I can't tell you how being exposed to that really helped me. So I'm glad that here at Tech Alley, people are getting the same type of exposure because, the entrepreneurs just have a different mindset, right? When you hear them talk, you see the eyes kind of go up and go, okay, hold on. I'm on to something here. And, this little situation that you have, we can scale this into something that's a really big solution for a lot of folks.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So you've gotten involved in workforce development. That's been really important to you from very early in your career. You're on advisory boards like NCWIT, Merit Academy. Tell us about what you're doing with those. Tell us about how that's kind of tied into Tech Alley and the whole workforce thing here in Las Vegas.
Yeah. So the NCWIT is is a National Center for Women in Information Technology, and that's as part of what we do in that group is we recognize young women in middle school and high school for their accomplishments and interest in technology. And I think it started, we had one, so we do is we host awards events for these young women. I think the first one we did, we had one winner and maybe 30 applicants, and now there's hundreds of winners and hundreds of applicants. So it's really cool. And again, I think that's what is an important part of the workforce development process is, I like to call it equity of representation, right? It's showing people that, hey, there's an opportunity here and here's who's doing it and go for it. I related to this. You can always hear this. They say, well, we need more women in technology.
Yeah.
And I always ask the question, I say, well, what are we doing to attract more women to technology, right?
Sounds like an obvious question to me.
Right. I say, let's compare it to nursing industry, right? They need talent. And so they said, all right, well, everybody associates nursing to as a women's career. Why don't we start making ourselves more attractive to men in this career? And they're doing it. So let's take that same type of idea and say, all right, well, let's highlight people that are in this industry so others can go, okay, well, I had no idea that you could do that and that women were doing this. And again, the same thing as nursing. Men might go, I had no idea that men could be nurses and go for it. So that's the effort in that one. The merit one was actually with a school. I'm also part of the school district's IT advisory board, CSN's advisory board. The one I like I like them all, but the one I think I've made a really neat impact on is the Governor's Office of Science, Innovation, and Technology. If I got it right.
Don't read ahead to the question.
Oh, is that it?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, because I was going to ask you about that. You're the legislative committee chair for that organization, right?
No, I'm not legislative chair. That one was for a SIM group, Society for Information Management. But this one is part of the Governor's Office, OSIT, and I'm part of their STEM advisory committee. And that's the one where we were talking about STEM jobs. And in fact, it was the question was, hey, we need to get more women in STEM. And I said, well, why can't women be in STEM? What is STEM, right? Is nursing STEM? Is teaching a STEM job? What is a STEM job? If you want advice, I got to understand where we're going here. And I really couldn't find an answer for that from the group. And so I said, all right, I'll figure out, I'll study up on it. Because I think STEM is just a marketing term, right? Yeah. And so when I do my research, I found what they call the 4 C's of STEM, which is creative thinking, critical thinking, collaboration, and communication. And I went, I get it. They're trying to teach kids how to ask why and then solve for why. I said, they're creating entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And I said, so it doesn't matter what job you have. The idea is, are you comfortable enough? Do you have the knowledge and the skill set enough to go, hey, why are we doing it this way? Why don't we try something different? And then executing on that idea. So that actually helped me create one of my latest companies was really that thought was, how can we create that entrepreneurial culture by showing folks that if you run into a problem, there's ways to get around that, and you can do it. So I really enjoy that role in that committee as well. I used to be in so many, but I've started limiting what I can do because the time constraints. But
there's only we all get the same 24 hours in every day. But sometimes we try to pack too much into that. So.
Yeah, and I think that when you're parts of committees, you have to be a valuable part of it, right? As there's some people that go to committees and they don't contribute, right? And I say no. If you're part of a community, at least add some value. And sometimes, you have some little time that sometimes you just can't contribute to that value, and just best thing to do is drop out of it.
So what's the big picture for all these efforts? I know you're scaling back on a couple of them, but what's the big picture? Where would you like to see the Vegas tech community in the next few years?
I want it to be humming on all cylinders, right? I want it to be a true ecosystem that no one has to force to stick around. I say this, I want to see more homegrown entrepreneurs, high growth entrepreneurisms, or entrepreneurs here. Because my biggest fear, and you've seen that report where it says that we're the top pre-IPO startup city in the country. And I'm excited about that because it went from like 9 to number 1 in one year. And a lot of people are patting themselves on the back saying, hey, we did it. And I go, yeah, it's cool. We'll definitely leverage that for marketing. But realistically, it's because a lot of startups came here.
Yeah.
What's going to happen when California says, hey, we screwed up. Sorry, come back. We're going to be a lot more business friendly.
Yeah.
And they say, all right. And they jump back into California. And now we've had all of that know-how and experience gone. And locally, we didn't take advantage of it in order to build our own high growth startup. So I'm saying, that's cool. Let's leverage it and let's tell everybody, yeah, that's what it is. But understand, we still got to keep them here, and we've got to get people here in the community collaborating with these folks.
Yeah, and I think that's the piece that I think has to come next is the collaboration. Right, there's a lot of startups moved here, but they're kind of doing their own thing.
Yeah.
And we need that one place.
Yeah.
Like the coffee shops in San Francisco and the Bay Area, where we need those places where people meet and collaborate and
that's right.
create great new ideas and work together on things. And also, I think something really important is the mentoring. Those founders who have scaled the company, those founders who have exited a company, those founders who have become investors. And Tech Alley has already started that with some of the other folks who are giving talks right now about investors and founders mentoring new founders who are just getting their startups going. So that flywheel is starting to turn, but I think that's really important that we keep that going in our community.
I've learned a ton just by talking to these folks like Kurt.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a tremendous, dictionary of knowledge, if you want to call it, or a trusted resource of knowledge. And even with my last company in Tagley, he's the one that says, hey, it's not all about giving equity away for your company. Why don't you find a way to diversify your fundraising strategies?
Absolutely.
Use container relationships. I was like, what is that? Let's talk about this. You learn it going, oh, this makes it so much easier. So that's our business strategy is, all right.
That's awesome.
It's all about container relationships. So we don't have to work so hard. We're finding value. We're bringing value for groups that will bring us customers, right? Yeah. And by solving their needs. So anyway, I mean, talking to people that know or experience it or have ideas and then trying them out has been very helpful. And I see a lot of people do it. So I love Tech Alley. I often joke that I create Tech Alley so I can hang out with all the cool people in the community. It's really a neat place to be.
It is the way to hang out with all the cool people in the community. It is the best networking event in town, in my opinion. So
I appreciate that.
Kudos. So speaking of working hard, one of your very first jobs was a coin sorter at a bank here in Las Vegas. What did you learn about the workplace and leadership from that job?
Oh, I don't know what I learned about. So, that was when I realized, all right, college isn't for me. And I quit college and I said, I need insurance. And I said, well, bank has great insurance. Let me try to get a gig. And so coin sorter was like the lowest position in the bank. I mean, it was like, you just grab, we need you to pick up these heavy bags, dump them into this machine and let it count, right?
At least they gave you a machine.
That's true. And it was a great group of people that I worked with. We had a lot of fun. I was 18, 19 years old. And, they said lowest position, they didn't really care too much. And so we just had a blast, being in the middle of a coin vault. I think the biggest experience I had there was because we were the lowest. I think we were the treated the worst.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was making like $5 an hour. And eventually I had worked my way up to even a little bit higher position where I was doing a lot more than just coin sorting. And so maybe I was making $7 an hour. I don't remember. But they had done this. Okay, here's a lesson in leadership. They said, hey, everybody, we're going to create this bonus program, right? And if you do something remarkable, we're going to you're going to be in line for this bonus thing. And first, we're going to give it to this person that's helped train people, and they're in this other department. I thought, oh, that's cool. Well, the MGM was just opening up,
mm-hmm.
and they had messed up, and they ordered all of these bags of quarters, millions and millions of dollars of quarters.
Yep.
And they realized, oh crap, our machines, these bags of quarters come in $1,000 bags, right? Our machines only hold $750. Right. And it was like last minute. And so they said, Coin Vault, we need you to redistribute these millions of dollars into $750 bags. And we're going to work 24 hours a day for a full week. Right. And so I had looked at that and went, all right, maybe we can find a better way of making this happen. And
mm-hmm.
was able to rig up. And anyway, to make a long story short, I helped the team, rallied the team. We come up with a plan. We got it done in one day. Right. And so, the bank, they collected money for a full week, right? So they made off on a killing.
Oh, yeah.
But we did it all in one day. And I was going, I'm going to get that, $500 bonus or whatever the heck it was. And I never got it. And they decided, and after a while, I said, all right, well, I'm going to ask about this thing after months. And they said, oh, we decided not to do that anymore. And it drove me insane, right? At that point, and I said, you know what? At that point, it's revolution. And I rallied
mm-hmm.
everybody up and basically went against the leadership. And at the end of the day, the bank president had to come down. And the next thing I know, I'm making $15 an hour. And everybody got raises and the more respect for that department. Ultimately, they moved me out of that department into something else. This guy's a troublemaker. But I've learned that as a leader, you fulfill your obligations. I mean, the people aren't there for a position; they're for a purpose. And take care of the people that are getting the job done for you, man. It was a really odd leadership style that they had. Again, I tell people that work for me or that I mentor, I say, pay attention to the good things that people do, but also the bad things that people do, and say, all right, maybe I don't want to do that, and how do I avoid being that type of thing? So that was definitely one of those poor leadership strategies that I try to avoid.
Yeah. Be the boss you always wish you had, not the boss you used to have. Right?
Yeah. I mean, your employees are some of the, like I said, they're there for a purpose. You're a team.
Yeah.
Right. And I always tell them, there's no difference between me and you other than I got a cool title and sometimes I get to go out to lunch.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So workforce development is clearly one of your passions.
Yeah.
What do you think we're getting right with developing the tech workforce here in Las Vegas right now? And what changes would you like to see?
I think there's still a big, okay, I'll say this, that on the post-secondary training school situation, Nevada is in bad shape because we have laws from 1978 that prevent us. We had the only software development school in Nevada, and there was a reason,
mm-hmm.
because it was impossible to get a school opened up in Nevada. The laws are just insane. So we need to change those laws so that they're separating us. They basically compare every post-secondary program to a college,
mm-hmm.
and so you have to have the requirements of a college, and it's nuts, right?
Yep.
We were a nonprofit, so we got some money from the state, but we were also mission focused, which is why we were able to push that through. But second is we need to upskill adults and parents and turn them into the trailblazers for their kids. One of the metrics that we look at when it comes to our education system here is something called chances for success. And they look at, again, the post-secondary achievements of parents in the community and the jobs and a lot of other things. And just a consequence of our economy, that you can make a lot of money and not have a high school degree here, right?
Yeah.
And so what happens is, I think our schools are doing a pretty good job, but they go out for support from their parents or from their community, and they might not have an idea of how to help them get to that next level, right? And I say it's not a status thing, if you want to call it that, because my kid wanted to be a lawyer. I was like, heck yeah, man, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
He went to college, sent him the sent him the care packages and everything he needed to do. But I didn't know nothing about lawyering, right?
Yeah.
But a year and a half into it, he said, I'm going to change my major to business. I said, let's start talking macroeconomics, man. Here's all of my paperwork from when I went to college. And I actually ended up, I said I dropped out of college.
You ended up getting a bachelor's and a master's degree.
Yeah, a master's. And so I said, here's everything that I've ever done. And he was, he pursued that degree and pursued the same master's degree that I have. And my youngest is pursuing a computer engineering degree. So if the families are that big of an impact to, the growth of the careers of their children, let's start investing in upskilling them, because these jobs aren't going to be here as long as I think people expect them to, think they're going to be, because we have to innovate as Las Vegas, right, in order to compete on a global scale, which means we're going to depend a lot less on the service industry and leveraging technology to create this environment for our customers.
And now that Las Vegas has such a focus on sports and entertainment, and there's tons of technology behind that. Like, you don't really know until you lift up the hood a little bit and look under the hood how much technology is behind sports and entertainment, whether you're talking about the Raiders at Allegiant Stadium or some of the nightclubs that are running here, and how much tech goes into that. And how dependent they are on the tech. It's not just about, table games and slot machines anymore here in Las Vegas.
Well, here's what I envision, right, is that there's going to be, an app, hey, download this app to get into your room, right? And now they have a connection to you. So when you're walking down the casino, they know what you're into.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, that little jingle from that slot machine is like, oh, I know that song.
Yeah.
And it draws the attention, and it creates this little sphere of influence around you as you're walking through this magnificent showcase of our strip, right? It's really going to be catered to the individual based on their likes and location.
If you don't believe it, it's coming, and Las Vegas will probably be one of the first places that has it.
We have to, because we have to be leaders in this industry, and there's a lot of competition out there.
All right. Well, tell us about some of your other ventures. Tell us about some of your tech companies that you founded and what those are all about.
Yeah. So the first one is Unveiling, and that was created because I had learned why people weren't hiring local developers here, and a lot of it is because we had a lot of junior developers. And so when it comes to hiring or recruiting a junior developer, well, you got to invest a lot of resources into them, and it's usually between $30,000 to $60,000.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then what would happen is, now that that junior got six months to a year of experience, they're worth more in the job market, and they were jumping ship.
Yep.
So it was really risky to hire locally, when knowing that, when you can just go to Israel or India or Mexico or whatever and get a contract with a group like that, and at least you're going to get your product done. Sure, there's risk there, but it's not as much as an expense as what you're running into this situation. So what I learned is could I mitigate that risk? And that's what I did. I created a launch pad as a company with my Innovate. That what I do is I find companies that are looking for talent or have a product that needs to be delivered, find a junior developer to work on that project that fits in with their culture and their technology needs, and then I hire a senior developer team to work as an intermediary. And that way, the company actually works with the senior team, but the junior gets most of the work. You blend that rate, now you're competing with the international market on price and so on.
And the best part is, we're turning junior developers into senior developers to be senior developers of the future, and those CTOs of those tech companies
100%.
We hope get founded here in Las Vegas.
Every stakeholder finds a value in it, because I have the opposite of a non-solicit. So after the project's done, I tell the company, hey, if you want to hire them, right?
Yep.
And so they got to sort of test out the talent before they bring them on. And this person's already worked on their project for them. So if you look at each stakeholder, for the junior developer, well, they just got a chance to work with the company and ideally get hired. But if not, they just got some experience that they can articulate on their resume and make it more valuable in the market. For the senior development team, and these are independent consultants, business development, because my model isn't designed to hold on to talent. So once the project's done, they can work as a support or continuing a relationship with that company. And then to the company, they got an idea brought to market, or they got to find their talent with very little risk.
Yep.
So each stakeholder wins on that. And I created that just to prove a concept that this could work. And in the end, it pays the bill. So it's working well. And the other company, Intagly, was created because we were talking about that OSIT and the idea of creating a STEM culture. I said, can't we put 3D printers in every library? In that way, if a fourth grader is running into a problem, like they're trying to build a Lego set, and they can find the piece, they can go to a library, print it out, and stick it on there. And then I realized, well, no one's using these 3D printers at libraries. Those that have them, they're just sitting in the corner. And they're only because they are a complicated machine, only a certain age group can use them. Mm-hmm. And so I created a company called Intagly that connects people that need 3D printing to those in the community that have 3D printers, like Uber does with drivers. And for libraries, it instantly scales their entire 3D printing to their entire community without buying any more equipment. Now anybody can go up there and say, hey, I got this little STL or whatever. They upload it to the library system. It goes out to someone in the community. They do the printing, deliver it to the library, and then they go pick it up. Yep. So it's a way to, again, scale it instantly to the community. So that's working really well.
Just made 3D printing available to everyone.
That's 100% it. And then the people that are actually making money are the people in the community. So it's creating this little ecosystem within the community. It's really kind of cool.
I love a free market.
That's it.
I love a free market. So now you're the boss of a bunch of companies.
Yeah.
What have you learned about leadership going from employee in that coin vault to being a boss now? Any other additional lessons there?
A ton. And again, I was a CIO for a real long time, 15 years.
Yeah.
And I always like that Good to Great. I don't know if you ever read that.
Yep.
That book,
one of my favorites.
Was it the level 5 leader?
Yeah.
There's one time I thought I'm going to make it. I'm going to do it. And no, it didn't quite work out. Because the whole concept is it'll survive without you.
Yeah.
Right? A company isn't needed. I think I tried that with Tech Alley, right? You can see that concept. Even the speech that I gave downstairs is I don't want people to think somebody runs Tech Alley, just that it's always going to be.
It just
here.
is.
Yeah.
It's a community thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's becoming that.
Yeah. And so, I always take the idea of this, that we're all just people, we all just have a role into making this, venture a success. So let's understand our roles, and let's do it, and let's work at a team, and let's help each other out whenever they need help out. I never saw myself above anybody. Mm-hmm. And so, that's a role I take. I think I learned that lesson when I was at Bank of America, because I like this story. It was before Zoom and all this stuff. So you jump on these calls, and you never know who was on the call.
Yeah.
And one time I had reached a pretty good level at the bank. I got onto a call, and it was a lot of high level executives, and they were talking as freely as you can imagine. They were saying some pretty good word enhancers, right?
I remember similar things when I was in the Air Force.
Yeah, and I was like, wait a minute, these are just regular folks. And I go, okay, it doesn't matter who you are. You're just speak to people like you speak to anybody, right? And so I tried to create that type of environment as well. But yeah, I don't pretend I know everything. I want people around me that are smarter than me, that fulfill a need, and then my job is to support them. I think I'm more of a servant leader than anything, and that's the way I want to run it. I'm definitely not a day-to-day. I like to say, here's our direction, here's our vision, here's where we're going to go, get the job done, and let me know how I can help, right? And go that way. In fact, with Intagly, I was a CIO or CEO, and I'm campaigning for office right now. And I stepped back and I said to my co-founder, Zach, you're doing it, man. And I'm not providing enough time for it. Why don't you take over as CEO, right?
And I know Zach.
Yeah.
And I want to point out something for our audience here who doesn't know Zach. Zach is 20.
When we started working together, I think he was at 19.
He was like 18 or 19 when you guys started working together on Intagly.
Yeah. And he's a remarkable leader. He's a remarkable businessman. And I think this is and as I was my attention was going toward other things like campaigning and so on. I mean, he was really picking up that C-suite role of, hey, all right, I'll drive the vision and I'll get the resources in place and go from there. Things that he was depending on me. And there's a point where we had a discussion. I said, "You're doing it, man.
Yeah.
Why don't you take the title and that way you don't have to talk to me about these sort of things. I'm here to assist you, during while I don't have the time to do it. Lead me on this one." And he's a remarkable kid. He's going to do fantastic.
Yeah, a big fan of Zach. All right, before we move on, I want to play a game with you.
Sure.
This game is called Rapid Response.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you a question. Just tell me the first thing that pops into your head.
Okay.
All right. Rapid response. Josh Leavitt.
Let's do it.
Your time starts now. Podcast recommendation.
I don't listen to podcasts.
All right. You can reach out to me, audience, and I'll give you podcast recommendations. This is a good one.
Okay. I know this is long. I would say Adam Carolla. That's the one I used to listen to.
Adam Carolla.
There you go.
Best summertime picnic food.
Hamburger.
Yeah. Something we should all be paying attention to.
Water.
Water, especially living here in Las Vegas. Either, don't answer yet, either your Get Psyched Up song or your walk-on music.
Eye of the Tiger.
All right, good one. Your biggest influence in life?
Benjamin Franklin.
Okay. Besides startup communities and Good to Great, because we've already talked about those, a book everyone should read?
Power of Habit.
Good one. Best way to beat the Las Vegas heat?
Stay in the shade.
Stay in the shade. It's an important lesson. Like, I remember learning that lesson the first summer I lived here. Like, oh, you just don't do anything out in the sun from 10 in the morning until 7 at night in the summer. Everyone has to learn that lesson when you live in Vegas. Your next vacation?
Cancun.
An important trend to watch?
I have no idea on that one. No. I can't pay it. Nothing's come to mind.
All right. Well, watch Josh Leavitt and Tech Alley, because I think that's an important trend to watch.
There you go.
Favorite sports team?
I'll say Dallas Cowboys, though I don't watch sports anymore.
Okay.
I know. I'm no fun.
That's okay. Thank you for playing a game with us. It's a great way for our audience to get to know a little bit about Josh Leavitt, that maybe the technical and business questions aren't coming through. So thanks for playing with us.
Yeah, that's fun. Going back to the sports team one, I used to be a fan of the Cowboys. Growing up in Vegas, we didn't have a sports team here.
There were none until just a few years ago.
Yeah, so really. 70s, right? Because I thought about it. I was like, why did I like Dallas? I was like, well, because in the 70s is about the time I started watching football, and Dallas was America's team.
Mm-hmm.
And so you follow them. But once you get kids, Sundays are disappearing. Then you lose track of your favorite players, and then next thing you know, you just give up on sports altogether. So that's what happened to me.
Well, you did mention you're running for office, as if you weren't doing enough for the community right now. You're running for Nevada State Senate District 18, right?
Yeah.
What's behind your decision to run, and what changes for the Nevada business and tech community are you looking to bring about?
So why I decided to run was, I'll say this. Starting back in 2016, I learned that legislators were going to California and for tech and business advice.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I'm here. Why don't I offer some advice, right? And so I started reading, bill drafts and bills around technology and business, and then I'd reach out to the sponsors of those bills and say, hey, why don't you just tweak this or tweak that, or just to give some thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to the point where these legislators started reaching out to me and say, hey, Josh, what's your thoughts on this and that? So I got engaged in that. So I'd not only provide advice, but I'd also testify in committees, write letters, and write articles. I wasn't a lobbyist. I was just a person in the community that
just an expert.
Yeah, let's just make sure that these folks have some ideas from a local perspective. And that's what I love about Nevada, is that our politicians, our governing officials are very approachable. It's a part-time legislation, right? So, and they meet only every two years for 120 days. So the rest of the time they're your neighbors, right? And where else can you be like, I got a question, I'm going to call up my senator and ask him, right? It reminds me that, you ever watch The Simpsons?
Yeah.
There was that one where they were talking about Australia, and the guy's like, I'm going to my prime minister, and he walks down the street or whatever, and he yells at his prime minister who's in a raft.
Floating on a tube in a little like swimming hole. Like, that was exactly what I was thinking about as you were talking about.
Yeah, he's like Prime Minister Randy, and that's the type of I think that's how approachable legislators need to be here. So that's how it was so easy to have these types of conversations. Well, last legislative session there was a lot of bills around innovation and entrepreneurism and workforce development that should have been looked at and passed, but they were ignored. And I realized these folks really don't have an understanding of what this means. They're being too reactionary. We got to fix this. All right, we're going to fix this by doing this. But they're not like future-proof in the state of Nevada. Yeah. There's no entrepreneurs up there. And again, every 2 years they meet for 120 days. Who can take 120 days off of work every 2 years, right? Not a lot of entrepreneurs or business folks. That's why you see a lot of lawyers and government employees and so on in that space. So I said, all right, well, we need to give. I can only do so much as an advisor. Maybe I got to go up there as a peer level.
Okay.
So that's what I did. Is I decided I was going to run. I got that senators of my district's endorsement. He was terming out, and it's been a wild ride. I love campaigning. I say more entrepreneurs need to campaign because or get into politics, because it's aching for that type of thinking and mindset, and let's actually execute on ideas instead of just talking about ideas. How many of the same things you're hearing about? Oh, school district, but are you really solving these? I said it's a simple 5 why exercise. We'll get down to the core root of what the heck is going on here. Why don't we start there, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of my policies and priorities and how I'm going to fix it was simply by starting with that. Well, why are we doing that? Why is there a problem? And so on. And I think it's sort of shook up a lot of people in that space that are going, oh, I'm not used to people talking like this, right? It's usually, I know how to solve it, more money, right? Well, maybe that's not really the approach. Maybe you're looking in the wrong area. But
yeah, maybe what you spend the money on might make a difference.
That's 100% it. I mean, so even when you look at my campaign side, it says, hey, here's the problem, and listen, here's how we're going to fix it. And guess what? It might not be 1 session, it might be 5 sessions, but at least let's put a plan together. It says, what we want to do. But also, entrepreneurs are used to selling vision, right? And you need that at this level, not just rhetoric, but let's actually really sell something. I love that entrepreneurial spirit. It needs to be up at those higher levels of government, and I like that entrepreneurs, and I do the same thing, and we'll see how well I do as a legislator on this one. But you say, I don't think that's going to work. You're used to that fail fast, or at least putting something in and going, I don't know if that's sustainable. Can we come up with something better, on this one? I'm running for Senate, enjoying it quite a bit. I got the competitors, but I'm a competitor myself, so it's fun to try to win this thing.
Well, I'm sure campaigning has been a new experience for you. Was there anything you didn't expect about campaigning that has come along? What are any lessons you've learned on the campaign trail?
I've learned that behind the scenes in government is very suspicious, and it's a whole new world there. I mean, there's a lot of back deals, and it's just as Machiavelli says, right? Everybody's in politics. Everybody's in for themselves. You never want to trust that type of thing. So, I think that sort of disgusts me. And in some ways, not in some ways, I actually physically said it. I'll tell you this, one of my competitors sees me as a challenge, and and this is a competitor that's as part of a larger scheme. As far as government control is. And so what they do, they try to bribe you. It's the first thing they do. They come out and say, Josh, we want to bribe you. What is it going to take to get you out of this race? Right. And these are government officials.
Yep.
Right. And then they try to threaten you, and then they bribe you, and then they threaten you some more. It's really weird on that. But I told them, I said, you've introduced me why government's so ineffective. It's almost nepotism. It's a who and what are they going to do for you type of thing. But do we really want producers? We really want producers that are out there. I said, you've churned my running from hey, I think I can do a good job, to this is a purpose now.
Yeah.
Right. If I decided, well, I'm going to take you up on the offer and take this, whatever, then I'm allowing somebody that is going to be ineffective into that role. It's there for somebody else's purpose and not for the communities. So I don't like that. I want to see, again, I think government works for the people, and I want to see it brought back to that concept, especially here in Nevada. Why do they have legislation every 2 years? Because the people don't want legislators creating laws that impacts their lives, right?
Yeah.
So let's get back into that. We're here to work for the people, and not, we're here to ensure others have power.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Well, we wish you all the luck we can wish you on the campaign trail. Look forward to seeing you progress along that path.
Yeah.
And so hopefully you're going to be building a team around you in the near future to go tackle some of those things.
Yeah.
When you're looking for someone to be part of your team, what qualities are you looking for in that person? What skills, what traits?
Well, it all depends on what the need is, right? Not every type of position needs the most energetic and outgoing person. Sometimes you need to have someone that just puts their head down and gets the work done, right? So, if we're talking about, from the business perspective, that's what I look. I actually, when I'm hiring somebody, I draw out, sort of, all right, here's our goals. Here's the type of personalities I think I'm going to need to fill whatever jobs are. And, then I start, my recruitment strategy. I don't want too many people that are leaders, because eventually that's going to be toxic to the community. Sure, I might want one person or two people that are going to say, all right, we got this, we're going to rally. But the other ones, I want this person because they put their heads down, they get the job done. I want this person because they just personality type fulfills this kind of gap the team needs, and so on. And that seems to work well with me on that one. And again, I think I learned that along the way. If you have too many of the same personalities, they're going to eventually have issues with each other, and it's not going to be a fun environment. Just diversify that type of thing. So on the campaign side, I have a pretty good team as we have it. I don't know once you get elected if you have to have a team that goes there. I don't think it's necessary. It's one of those things. Since it's part time, they give you the resources when you have it. But
figure it out.
I tell people this: I'm going in as a new legislator. The last thing I want to do is kick the door in and say, "All right, I'm here. I'm here to solve all the problems." I said, "I'm here to be mentored and hear from the more established and seasoned legislators and understand what my role can work in, and then slowly work my way into a position that is the most effective." And I've learned that from taking over companies and so on. Is you got to understand the norms, and then you start working your way into how to change that. And I love Cotter's 8, and I use it all the time. Create a sense of urgency, build your coalition, come up with that plan, and then get that buy-in. Let's do the same thing.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
So, what is one of the best mistakes you've ever made, and what did you learn from it?
Oh, geez. Best mistake. I make mistakes all the time that I go, all right, I won't do that again. Biggest mistake was when I thought I was in third grade. I thought I was Superman. I jumped off a roof with a towel around my neck and I broke my arm.
Okay.
I haven't done that again. That's probably the biggest mistake. I think I also try to hide it because my mother would always say, "Josh, you're going to break your arm if you jump off the roof." And I didn't believe her. And one night I was like, you know what? This is the night. I feel it. And my mother was having a little party in the house, and I went up there. I didn't even make it on the roof. I slipped off the wall. It was dark, and I broke my arm. And I snuck into my room and hid away. And the next day I went to school, and the teacher saw this tweaked up arm. She goes, "What the heck happened?" I said, I fell off my bed, and of course my mother got called, and she goes, "That's a big lie," because I my bed was a mattress for a rollaway bed, so it was like this far thick, and it wasn't even on the ground, so there was no way I broke my arm. But I think that was an important lesson, and maybe I'm not as Superman as I thought I was. But I'm telling you that in all fun. I like to learn from my mistakes. I like to push myself. The hardest job I've ever had was with that nonprofit and run that coding school. That nonprofit would do their P&Ls every month for the entire organization to see. And I was trying to put something together that was really difficult. We were already, I told you, it cost a lot of money to kick off. So we were already well over budget. And every month, man, that P&L will come out and it would show the things I was responsible for and saying, Josh is not making it. And I said, I both loved and I hated that because one, it motivated me to go, one of these days I'm going to figure this out. And so I had to come up with ideas and work past all these roadblocks. But two, it was also real embarrassing because you knew the whole entire company or organization saw that you weren't making it. And man, when I finally figured it out and I solved it and got us over, we were at budget and we were making money, I teared up. It was the most rewarding thing. But there was a lot of efforts, trying this and trying that, trying to be, innovative. How do we make money? How do we sell this product? And that was a huge learning curve for me. And I definitely still carry those lessons.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Accountability, man, is a great thing.
Big believer.
Oh,
yeah. Accountability. Who is someone you admire in business or as a leader?
In business, I'm going to say this, and again, it goes to an interesting story. So when I was at the coding school, one of the things I said to all my employees, go out and find a mentor. And I don't want to be like the guy down the street. I wanted to be someone you never even considered would ever mentor you, right? And I said, in fact, I'm going to do the same thing. And I reached out to, I said, I'm going to get the president of Bank of America when I worked there, right? His name was Dave Coulter. And I did it. It took probably 3 months of getting through his secretaries, and because he was some really real big wig somewhere else, right? And eventually, the dude calls me up, I'm so impressed by it. And we get to talk, and I said, you know what changed my focus on what I want to do in life? I said, when the bank implemented this thing called take ownership. And what they said was, we're going to give all employees stock options, right? And then you can sell. Well, at the time I was making very little, so $2,000 of stock options was like gold to me, man. It was like, Stacy, which is my wife, we can go on a vacation, we can do something. And it changed me from every year saying, this is the last year I'm going to be at Bank of America, to I'm going to help this company succeed. I'm going to learn the history about it. I'm going to learn what these roles in the company are. And that accelerated my career. And I told him about that. And he said that was the single most important thing that he's ever done in a thing, was this idea of creating a healthy culture of take ownership. And he said that, the bank just skyrocketed when it came to funding. He said branch employees were calling up and saying, hey, we closed 5 minutes early and there were still people waiting in line. We should have continued going until whatever, so and as he said, he goes, I'm a numbers guy. So this idea of culture was something, outside of my priorities. He goes, but I'm glad I did that sort of thing. And I respect that. So, I still think that he was a big inspiration, not only for creating that type of culture in that big bank and taking it on, but also calling me up and talking to me about that and being a mentor for me for, a short while. I thought that was really kind of cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you've had a lot of success, but not everything in business and life is success. What keeps you up at night? What's a challenge that you are working on right now?
Right now, this very moment is winning that campaign. Yeah. That keeps me up quite a bit. Because you're always thinking of what could you do or what can't you do. When I was the CIO, it was always cybersecurity, and I tell people I don't want to take on that role again. That was scary stuff, man.
It's hard.
But right now, it's how do you win? And I think it really aligns with business. How do you win, right? I wonder how many politicians or even candidates do a SWOT, because I sure the heck did one, right? And I said, all right, what's my strengths? What's my weaknesses? How can I transform these into advantages on my end? Even though I'm running it and it's a campaign type of thing, it still feels like you're running a business and you're trying to bring, win in the market on that one. And that keeps me going. Once I'm done campaigning, I'm sure it's going to be something else. There's always something on my mind that I try to, always trying to figure out, it's just one of those personalities.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
What is someone or something you're grateful for?
Someone or something that I'm grateful for? Let's talk about Tech Alley for a second. I say that Tech Alley is an extension of what Tony Hsieh and the startup community was trying to do back in 2010. It's nothing new that I created. They're the ones that created the meetup scene and that idea that, hey, everybody can get together, and so on. So Tech Alley is just an extension of what they were trying to do. I just made it easier for everybody to get together. My vision is that, I should say this, that there was a time that Tony Hsieh was the patriarch of the ecosystem here. And you've read the book. You can't have a patriarch of the ecosystem. I don't think he meant to do it. And it just was the consequence of what he was.
I think there were a lot of unintended consequences of kind of how things happened with Downtown Project in Tony's days. And then we've been able to reset that the last couple of years.
Yeah, and you can see what happens when an ecosystem falls on the shoulders of heroes. Once they're gone, it collapses, and that's what happened. And so I'm grateful for those lessons and them, those efforts that they put together and the accomplishments that they could put together. But now we're able to move it into something where we can say, can everybody in the community be Tony Hsieh's?
Yeah,
you're right. Can everybody here be an entrance into the ecosystem, and how do we accomplish that? And that's one of the other driving forces behind Tech Alley is I want to celebrate the knowledge and information and know-how that all these other people in this community have, so that again, we're all it's on the heroes, or it's on the shoulders of tons of heroes, and not just one. So there's no point of failure out there.
Well, I think you are well on your way to achieving that.
I'm excited about it. I think so as well.
Advice you would give to future leaders or entrepreneurs, especially for other folks who are looking to bring about a change in their community, like you're trying to do with Tech Alley?
Don't take yourself so seriously. I think that's the biggest one. Expect expect things not to go the right way or your decision not to go right. You know what? Here it is. I got it. I wrote a paper on this once called The Art of Being Vulnerable. Right. And the thought process is, don't be scared, just jump in. Right. Eventually you'll figure out the right approach. And I try to do the same sort of thing. I hate silence. So if people are shooting ideas out, I'll be the first one that says, I don't know, man, let's paint this green. And at least, you get the conversation started. I spit on you a little bit, but I would do the same thing in leadership. I'd say, all right, well, I'll write the first email, but I expected my team and everybody else to sort of just critique the heck out of it. And then we'd make something that would actually work. And the thought process, and I still believe it, creation is hard, critiquing is easy. So take that hard part, be that creator, and just accept that you're gonna it's going to be criticized. And I would say the same type of thing, and is do exactly that. Take on being vulnerable. It's the best way to move forward.
Okay. Anything else we should know about Josh Leavitt and Tech Alley?
I don't know. I am who I am. I think I'm a pretty open guy. I really want to strive to see this community better than when I left it as the Boy Scout model, model that I like to follow. And I say this: I know you reached success, especially here in Vegas, when there's a black and white picture of you behind a bar somewhere, right? Isn't that where all the greats in Las Vegas are remembered? There's a picture of him, and you go, "Hey, I remember that guy. Yeah, he was all right."
Hey, everybody, we had a little technical difficulty as Josh was wrapping up and telling everyone where you could find him. We are working for the first time outside in Vegas summer heat, so our camera decided to shut off a little bit, but we're back. So Josh wanted all of you to know that you can find him at techalley.org. That's the website for Tech Alley, and there are over $1 million worth of discounts if you check out techalley.org, and we'd love to have you come down every third Saturday of the month in Las Vegas and check out Tech Alley, as well as check out our live streams that we're going to be doing from Tech Alley in the future. And also, if you're interested in his Senate run and political career, check out joshfornevada.org. Thank you all for joining us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please reach out to Josh and thank him for joining us. If you like this, please like, comment, and share. Send it to someone who'd be interested in it, someone who could use it. Please check out our other videos. We love having these conversations and letting you be a part of them. Get out there, make an impact, onward and upward.